Hello, fellow travelers. Welcome to another episode of the Traversing the Stars podcast. To all my loyal listeners, thank you for your continued support. Comic writer Celeste Bronfman boards the ship with her tales of Marvel's Jackpot and Black Cat. Now come on board as we're traversing the stars. We're joined today by a very talented comic creator and writer. She's the writer of Marvel's Jackpot and Black Cat, as well as she's worked on Star Trek, My Little Pony, and many others. We are joined today by the ever-talented Celeste Bronfman. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. When you're working on what you love, it's kind of hard to remember what the holidays actually are because you're so passionate about what you're doing.
That's true. It's a blessing and a curse, but I do love what I do. So I am mostly working on weekends as well, so it doesn't feel too different.
For those that don't know anything about yourself as a creative person, tell us who you are and what you're bringing to the show today.
I am a comics and TV writer. I recently have been writing with Marvel. I helped launch MJ as a superhero called Jackpot, and I'm here today to discuss Jackpot and Black Cat, which is a miniseries with MJ as Jackpot and Felicia Hardy Black Cat.
It looks beautiful. I mean, we're going to talk about your artist and talk about yourself as a writer throughout this entire thing, but just from the images, just from the covers alone, I mean, it was just amazing.
They are gorgeous. I had a chance to see it for the first time in person when it launched, and it's beautiful. I think I want it as a poster on my room wall. It's gorgeous.
What is the most misunderstood aspect about being a comic writer that people who don't follow the industry?
Ooh, I think it's how collaborative it is in terms of the writer in this context has to help with stage direction in some ways. And it's something that I learned as I was getting into comics writing. So there's quite a bit of describing who is in the foreground, who is in the background. I think that's something that not a lot of people know, but of course the artist brings a lot to the table and makes better decisions. But it's really about understanding the geography of the space and how each frame will help in aiding the story. It's a lot more than I was used to in TV and film.
It's amazing how similar but how different those two industries are, from comics to TV and film.
It is interesting because they are both visual mediums. So you're always thinking about how it will be received through images and through footage, but it is different in terms of how you are collaborating on that process.
Jackpot and Black Cat introduces a captivating storyline involving a mysterious app blackmailing citizens. What inspired this unique idea and how did you develop this into a series?
Ooh, I think I was reading a lot of articles about technology and the dangers of technology. And I think, like many people, I believe that technology can be a force for good or a force for evil, and it really depends whose hands it's in. And I thought it would be interesting to explore a villain who is using technology to activate any innocent civilian. That sounds like the most terrifying thing. I think it might have come from a nightmare, to be honest. But I think linking, the very grounded reality of the Spider-Man realm in that, it's very street level fights. A lot of it takes place in the streets of New York City. I definitely wanted it to take place in that environment, but also have this unique twist and updated twist. So I thought marrying the two, technology and this kind of environment of gritty New York, would be fun and interesting.
You have two iconic characters between, of course, Mary Jane and Felicia Hardy. They're so dynamic between each other, and that seems to be a focal point of the stories itself. But how did you approach balancing their friendship and personal growth with this overarching plotline?
That's a good question. For me, I usually come at it from a character perspective first. So I had an idea of how I wanted to approach their friendship, where they were at, and what I wanted to do with their relationship. And then I think creating a setting that helped tell that emotional story was the challenge. But I think as long as you have your plot points and the emotional points, threaded out. You can do anything that wild and it'll still feel a bit grounded because it's grounded in that emotion.
Mm.
So I really wanted to kind of evolve their friendship and focus on where they were at, because last time we saw them, they were still struggling to work together or coming together. They were coming together and they were working well together. But I think there were struggles in that Felicia was hiding certain things from MJ. And now a bunch of time has passed, so we see them in a very new place. And I wanted this to be a continuation of that story with taking into consideration how much time has passed. And hopefully, when we meet them in this issue, we get a sense of how they've grown together.
How many issues are there? Because I only saw 3.
Yes, there are going to be 4 in this series. We're just finishing up the series now, which is exciting. And it's fun to see everyone's reactions because it feels like a story that I've been really passionate about for a while. And so I'm excited that it's finally out there. It's a little terrifying, but also liberating. It can be all of the things.
Just shows you progression as not only as a writer, but as, being invested in your characters and seeing the fan reactions. MJ's journey into superheroism is a significant aspect of the narrative. I mean, she's also so iconic in so many different instances. She has a long history as well. What themes of character developments did you find most compelling when you were exploring her arc?
Well, she has been through so much through her life. I think the one thing I really was excited about portraying now that she's Jackpot is this idea that she's always been a hero. She's always been on the front lines. So it felt like a very natural evolution for me. We've seen her risk her life for the people she loves. We've seen how much she cares for the city she lives in and the people in that city. So I was really excited to kind of showcase that in a new space, because I think, as you said, we all love MJ. She's such an iconic character. I love her very much. And I just wanted to enhance what was already in her and all of her strengths.
The history of comics itself, you can go back to the early 20s, 30s, and now we're into a new age of technology, new age of writing, new age of new ideas. I mean, it's just really incredible overall. One common history of comics, especially when it comes to MJ and Felicia, is that they've both had romantic ties to Peter Parker.
This is true.
How, if at all, did this history influence your approach to writing their characters in the series?
I mean, we have seen them kind of go through, in the last arc they had together, Dark Web, we've seen how, they worked around Peter and their relationship with Peter. I think Peter will always influence their relationship and be a part of their relationship, but I think now neither of them is with Peter. And I think, although they both love him, it is a kind of a separate relationship now that exists beyond him. But I do think that the fact that he loved both these women and that they loved him kind of means they have quite a bit in common. We often gravitate to people who have our same values and who care about the same things we care about. So I think it feels very natural for them to be friends and to have this relationship, because it feels similar in some ways to the relationship they had with Peter. So I think it's really beautiful to see. Obviously, they're very different in the ways they approach the world and all of that. But I think on a base level, they have a lot of the same values. And that really brings them together in a beautiful way.
That's really good. And the fact that you're writing in this world is just even better. The fact that you can add your own experiences, your own knowledge, your own life subconsciously.
While I know it's beyond even what I could have imagined when I was a kid. I mean, I loved superheroes. I loved MJ. I went to see Spider-Man in theaters and read the comics. It is a dream come true to get to, play in the sandbox that all of the wonderful creators who came before me have created. It's a dream come true. And yeah, I think I always wanted to see more female friendships in comics. So it feels like a real gift to be able to be a small part of bringing some of those friendships to the world.
The fact that you have an amazing artist such as Emilio, in this particular series, that must have played a crucial role when it came to bringing these characters to life. Was there a piece of artwork that you got to see that he created that was just way better than what was written on your script?
I mean, most of it, if I'm being honest. He brings such nuance to the characters. I was really impressed by his incredible work in Amazing Spider-Man 31. He drew Felicia in that issue quite a bit and did such an incredible job. And yeah, I think he, especially for those emotional moments, it's really clear. Felicia's a difficult character because I think she is very vulnerable, but she also keeps a lot guarded. She's very guarded. And to show that nuance, especially when she's having a conversation with a friend and not sure how much to relay and not sure what, being in a close friendship even means in some ways, I think he really captures that nuance in her, in all of his art. I mean, it's phenomenal.
But you must have a favorite like scene or maybe favorite action or something that occurred. I'm curious just in that respect.
Yeah, I was talking about this the other day. I really love that scene. It's not a big action sequence, which I know are probably fan favorite moments. Fan favorite. Speaking too highly of it. But I think the moment that I really love is that scene where MJ follows Felicia back and sees her in a new relationship and sees and talks to her on the balcony. I think that was one of my favorite scenes to write because I really loved MJ getting Felicia to open up in a certain way and Felicia letting her guard down. So I think even though it's not maybe, one of the bigger action sequences, I think there was like a lot of beauty in that scene and that moment that I think has become my favorite.
The fact that you're writing in this world, the fact that you're so passionate about it, the fact that you've seen Spider-Man probably more times than it was released in theaters over the years, I think it's I think it's just
Embarrassing. You don't want to see my movie theater. How much money I've spent at the movie theaters.
how many ticket stubs you've saved.
Yes, I'm sure I have like a folder back in my childhood home. Really embarrassing. But yeah, I'm a big fan.
Besides the action-packed sequences and, of course, the scene you just mentioned here, what comics do you hope readers will associate with Jackpot and Black Cat based on your writing?
Well, I am a big fan of a lot of Marvel characters. So I think if readers love Jackpot and Black Cat, they should check out the Captain Marvel comics. That I love Kelly Thompson's run. I love Kelly Sue DeConnick's run, and Alyssa Wong is killing it right now. So all of those, I think Carol Danvers has always really inspired me. So I think that's like a personal one. Um, I think of my own work, this is a little bit of a departure from comics I've written before. I wrote a Star Trek comic that I don't think is very much in this realm, but it's a little more adult. I wrote a lot of My Little Pony, which is very adorable and sweet, but I don't know if it really goes with Jackpot and Black Cat. But I used to write on a show called Degrassi, and that's kind of a teen drama, and that's where I think I really honed my skills at, emotional narratives, because I think high school students, their emotions are really amplified at that age, as all of ours were. There's a lot going on. You're learning how to deal with your first heartbreaks, your first jobs. There's just so much that goes into being a high school student. So I really learned a lot from that realm that I try to bring into all my other writing. So although it might not feel like the same thing, I think the emotional storytelling that I was able to do on that show really helped me as I was coming into Jackpot and Black Cat.
As a writer, has your creativity ever been stifled or encouraged when crafting a story in these established universes for comic book fans and newcomers to the genre?
I think it's always very intimidating, but I think there are more opportunities than anything. I love when I came in to do Jackpot 1, it was part of a gang war crossover. And it was very intimidating at first. And I didn't really know where to start because I wanted to make sure I wasn't utilizing any characters that were in other stories or stepping on anyone's toes in any way. But it provided more opportunities in the end because all these characters were on the board already. So it allowed Jackpot to interact with a few other heroes that I don't think she would have otherwise. So I feel like every time it feels a little intimidating and like it might be more difficult to tell a story, it just opens more doors. But yeah, it was really exciting to have her interact with She-Hulk and see She-Hulk, who is another superhero who is fighting these huge battles. I think that was probably inspiring to MJ, and to be able to interact with Spider-Man, I think that was what I had always wanted to see as soon as she became Jackpot. So I was really excited about that opportunity.
That's awesome. I love it. What was an early experience where you learned that language had power?
Hmm. I think very early on, I was very inspired by TV. I watched it constantly. I had it on a loop. I fell asleep to TV growing up. I think I was really inspired by characters who overcame difficult situations. I was very inspired by by Doctor Who. There's a character on Doctor Who, Rose, and I was quite young when I was watching it. And I think she was a character who came from not from she was just a normal human, and she went on to save the world and go on all these grand adventures. And I felt that was really inspiring, and the ways in which she would fight for herself. I felt very inspired by that, and I think I've learned a lot from these characters and the words they use to stand up for themselves. And I feel I am better equipped to stand up for myself and advocate for myself because of those characters and the dialogue in those shows.
Being the fact that you're in two different industries, that is just entertainment as a whole, we've consumed it en masse throughout our lives here. But what challenges do you think that comic creators or TV or film writers face in today's world that needs to be addressed, that we can change for the better?
I think it's a specifically difficult time right now. We just came out of a few strikes in the entertainment industry, the Writers Guild, the Actors Guild. What I would hope to see in the industry in the future, I think there need to be more opportunities for newcomers to come in and people who have all these incredibly different points of views. I think there just need to be more voices on a lot of TV shows. And I think that means probably just giving chances to people. It's risky, I think. I understand the risks in it, but I think it's the only way for all of us to grow. Because I know I learn a lot from watching shows about people who, come from different backgrounds, who have different perspectives of the world. And I think that's so integral for all of us. It's for the TV industry, for the film industry, but also for comics. I think having more voices and giving people chances to grow in both of these industries is so important. And I think we're seeing it. We're definitely seeing it. And I've seen it in the comics industry. And I know a lot of like incredible editors who are always on the lookout for new people who can bring those new perspectives. And so it is exciting. I think it is a scary time, but it is also an exciting time. And so I'm looking forward to seeing all those stories.
Everyone usually asks, what's the wisest piece of advice or what's the most BS piece of advice that you've ever received? But what is the second wisest piece of advice that you've received that has stuck with you in your career?
Ooh, the second wisest. I wasn't ready for that one. Hmm, that's a hard one. I've received a lot of good advice in my life. It's a very common saying, but it's to do the thing you're scared of because you're scared of it because you care so much. And I think that has really rung true for me. Every time I'm really afraid of doing something, I know it's because I'm so passionate about it and it's something that's worth pursuing. So I think it's the reason I've been able to do a lot of things. I've moved to 2 different countries that were not my own without knowing anyone, and they were both incredible experiences. And I think I was terrified, but I also was so excited, and I think I was terrified because I was so excited and just didn't want it to go wrong because I cared so deeply about those experiences and about finding my way. So I urge everyone to take that advice because it served me well many times before.
Hopefully, you found a good pizza place. That's usually my first go-to if I travel to a new country.
That's a good go-to. Yeah, because it's harder than you think. And I can't make pizza myself, unfortunately. So I do have to outsource that.
You survived the show. Thank you so much for being on Traversing the Stars. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
Before I let you go, where can we find you? How can we support you? Of course, any social media or websites, and where is, of course, Jackpot and Black Cat available that we can purchase?
You can follow me at CEL _ Bron, BRON, on Instagram, on Twitter. I'm trying Blue Sky, but we'll see how it goes. And then please go buy the first issue of Jackpot and Black Cat at any of your local comic shops. You can buy it online as well, I think on Amazon, to read on Kindle. But please go read it. I love it. I hope people enjoy it. And pick up the next issue next month too, if you enjoy it.
Just pick it up. Don't even worry about if you enjoy it. Just pick it up.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Traversing the Stars podcast. Please help me battle the algorithms by liking and subscribing. Until next voyage, travel on.